Hi, welcome to the Cup Night channel. My name's Shane, and today I want to talk to you about moths. Maybe it's easier to see it on this side. Try to get the light. Yeah, moths. They're really cool, right? So, first thing I saw in my mind's eye when I woke up this morning was the planet Saturn and the shape of a moth. And it really struck me, so I figured I'd meditate on it a bit more and see if I should do some digging, if there's a message here, and sure enough, there is. And there's actually an interesting connection between the planet Saturn and a family of moths. There is a family of moths known as Saturniidae. I'm not really sure if I'm saying that right. It's like Saturniidae. And this family of moths is named after Saturn because of the concentric circular rings found on their wings. Rings on their wings. And a lot of the moths in this family are named after mythological figures associated with the mythological figure of Saturn, who in Greek mythology is Kronos, or Cronus. In Roman mythology, it's Saturn. So, yeah, one of the interesting ones I found, the Atlas moth is part of the Saturniidae family, and Atlas is one of Saturn's moons. In mythology, Atlas is a brother of Saturn, their father being Uranus, the sky titan. But Saturn and Atlas are both titans. And Atlas is, of course, famous for being the titan cursed to hold the world on his shoulders for all of eternity. Yeah, and then, of course, Saturn being the father of all of the gods, the Olympians. Zeus, Hera, Rhea, all of them. So, there's some interesting connections here in the symbology. Saturn is often thought to represent structure, stability, hard work, time, the constraints that keep us, held together. Your routines that you rely on could be considered a Saturnian thing. Anything that maintains consistency. And the rings of Saturn, they kind of reflect that too. They're often seen as like, in a negative light, they're seen as like constrictions, so things holding you back. But also, in a positive light, they're seen as something that stabilizes a force or an energy. And the moth is often associated with death, rebirth, and transformation. Especially in this tarot deck, it's the representative of the death card in the major arcana for this tarot deck, which, if you're interested, go ahead and throw this in here. It's the Arc Animal Tarot by Bernadette King. Here's the box. Really cool cards. I love the associations she did with the animals, and the book comes with a lot of descriptions about the animals. Anyway, so I actually want to look and read you the entry for the Cecropia moth, which, by the way, this moth is crazy. It's the biggest moth in the United States, in North America, that we know of. Its wingspan is like 5 to 7 inches. The Atlas moth is bigger than that. The Atlas moth is found in Asia, and its wingspan can get up to 12 inches. So absolutely massive. Some of the biggest insects on the planet. And they're so cool. They're so cool. So yeah, let me read you the entry for the Cecropia moth, which, by the way, Cecropia is a reference to, I believe it's Cercops. Let's see. I lost my research for that part, but essentially, I believe his name is Cecropia, but he's known as the founder of Athens in Greek mythology. He was said to be born directly from the earth, not having parents, and he was half human, half snake. And there's an interesting connection between snakes and moths, because a lot of moths on their wingtips have what looks like the head of a snake. Look it up, it's pretty cool. So another connection there, because snakes are also associated with death, rebirth, and transformation, shedding their skin, you know. Moths, like butterflies, go through metamorphosis. They go from being caterpillars, they enter a cocoon, and then they turn into these winged creatures, these winged pollinators. So these spreader, they are like messengers of life, essentially, because they go around and they pollinate the plants, and that allows the plants to continue to exist. And interestingly, moths are often associated with one particular plant. There's a symbiotic relationship between a moth and a specific plant. If that plant species were to die out, so would the moth. So they are very strictly tied, the Saturnian concept, something strictly tied to one plant often, and their life depends on that plant. So there's definitely a message of like timeliness, which also is a very Saturnian thing. Time, chronos. This window of time where something is able to be done, you know? And that also makes me think of some moths. When they become moths, they're born without mouths. They literally can't eat. And they only live for like a couple weeks. And, you know, their mission in that time is to, you know, be a pollinator, but also to mate and to make sure that their legacy continues. So yeah, their time is very precious. So there's a message here about something precious that is time sensitive coming up, and a transformation of something foundational, something structural, something solid in your life being shaken up. And honestly, I believe this is happening on a global stage as well, because I've been getting the Tower, and funny enough, the Tower card in this deck is a snake. So there's that connection between the moth and the snake again. And the Tower is all about massive, sudden transformation. And often the planet Uranus is associated with the Tower card in the tarot. Once again, another connection to Saturn, Uranus being the sky titan, the father of Saturn and Atlas. So, yeah, this rabbit hole is going deep. But here, I just want to read to you about moths and the cultures from the Bernadette King Arc Tarot book. So it says, the Cecropia moth is the largest Native American silk moth known, with a wingspan growing up to 7 inches. Before maturity, people harvest the fiber surrounding their pupae for raw silk, meaning our sweet moth lives in dangerous times. Yet those that survive fly on splendid wings and dance in the moonlight with unrivaled beauty. This is a powerful symbol of overcoming the odds and embracing change. Sometimes depicted as less attractive than the butterfly, moth still has so many admirable qualities. Their long mouths gather nectar like a hummingbird. Thus, silk moths represent savoring life's sweetness and the sacred lessons that nature provides. Native Americans in the California area tell us that moth embodies healing, transformation, and the power of living prayerfully while staying connected to the Great Spirit. Neighboring tribes see moth as a traveler from the world of spirits, sometimes bearing messages. There is a subtle mystery to moth medicine. The pattern on its wings look like inquisitive eyes. What can moths see that we do not? What is about to be revealed? What is about to be revealed? Moth guides us through awakenings, from the cocoon state into glorious rebirth. Something new and wonderful lies ahead, so walk in faith. In nature, we observe moths flying into fire and electrical light. When the moon is absent, moth misses its evening companion and looks for brightness wherever it abides. Here, moth encourages us to follow the path of light diligently, but suggests avoiding blind faith lest we get burned. Also, the lunar sphere is an emblem of our psychic development. The moth's eyes are always open. Romance is right up Cecropia moth's alley. It uses pheromones that preferred males sense over a mile away. Moth scent is delicate and magnetic. In matters of love, this moth teacher illustrates the power of enticement over bold advancements. Yeah. So there's another subtle message there about what are you calling into your life? What are you attracting into your life? What pheromones are you putting out there? Vibrations in your mind, in your heart, in your being. Because, yeah, it has an effect. Another thing this passage highlighted was the connection between the moon and moths. So I did a little bit of digging into that. Apparently, moths, it's not that they're just attracted to light, period. It's actually that they use the light of the moon and the stars as their guides. They use them to navigate. Their body can sense where the light of the moon and the stars is coming from, even if they're not directly looking at it, and it guides them so they can fly in these direct, straight paths for miles, just based off of the position of the moon and the stars. So that's awesome, for one, but also there's a message there about connecting to the celestial bodies and listening to their messages and letting them guide you, because they do have messages for you. They are a part of this world, which, as I have said in my previous video, if you haven't seen that, please go check it out. It's a kind of a long one, but essentially I was getting at the fact that everything in the world that you see is you. You know, it's a nice perspective to adopt because it makes life more magical. It gives layers of meaning to everything, and it gives you a guide. The symbols, the signs, the patterns that you notice reoccurring in your life, they are guides. They are sending you messages to show you which way to go. But you have to listen and have faith in them. Yeah, and you know, for me, I never thought I would be talking about this kind of stuff. I've always been interested in, you know, the paranormal and the absurdities or the things that seem like they don't quite belong, you know, in this reality. They've always interested me, but I have taken a full, you know, just headlong dive into this stuff as of late, and that's what this channel is all about. Especially in regards to the messages I believe I'm receiving and relaying. So, yeah, get in touch with the celestial bodies. How, you know, astrology, like, you may not want to, but at least just, like, have somebody read your chart to you or something, or just, like, look it up and see if anything clicks for you. And me personally, I follow True Sky Sidereal Astrology because it actually uses the position of the constellations, the stars and the planets as they are in the sky according to science, modern science, whereas Western Tropical, it does not. It's more of a based on like seasonal patterns, so it doesn't actually reflect the position of the planets. Anyway, that's a whole other rabbit hole, so do whatever you feel called to, but or even if it's just not even astrology, but just going outside and looking up at the sky and noticing how beautifully orchestrated all of it is. Recently we had the Perseid meteor shower come through. I believe the peak was actually sometime last week, but I think it's over now. You might still be able to see some of them, but the majority of it's gone now. Anyway, things like that are constantly happening in the sky. We just can't see it because we are distracted by our artificial lights, like the moth. We have lost our connection to the true lights above, and we're confused. The artificial lights, the fake lights, are distracting us from, you know, our aligned paths, our guides. So, wow, I wasn't expecting it to go in this direction. But, yeah, it's very powerful. It makes me think of the sea turtle, too, because, you know, they're highly dependent on the light of the moon to let them know which way to go, to make it to the ocean. And if the artificial lights surrounding them are too bright or putting off a certain type of light wavelength, they'll get distracted and they'll go in the wrong direction, and they won't make it. They won't make it to the ocean. You know, and it's the same kind of analogy for moths here. Like, they rely on the natural light of the stars, the heavens, and if they cannot tap into it, or they're being bombarded with, you know, specifically UV, ultraviolet wavelengths from other light sources, they will get confused and they will literally just spiral around an artificial light source. And isn't that funny? That's a great analogy for how we get caught up in these things that don't really matter. We get so focused on these artificial light sources and we just spiral around them. Even sometimes maybe that being our destruction, because some moths, you know, they will like fly too close to the light and die, or into a fire and die. So what light are you following? I believe that's probably the most important message that's coming through here, is what light are you following, and are you sure it's the right one? Is there a more natural light, a light that is more aligned with who you really are, that you could be following? Is this the light that could guide you out of tumultuous events? Because it seems like there are already, you know, crazy things happening all around us all the time on a global level, but I really do feel there's something coming up soon that is going to affect the world, almost like on a pandemic level, like COVID, you know. Not trying to spread fear or anything like that, but it's more of a, like, are you prepared? Are you ready to follow the true light of your life? Are you tapped into it? Do you know what it is? And yeah, it's a really powerful, strong message, but that's what was coming through. So I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to pull any additional cards. Really, the main two I would be aware of right now are, you know, the Tower and Death. So massive transformation coming in. So make sure you are connected with your guiding light, whatever that may be for you. Anyway, thanks for listening to me. Take care of yourself. Keep your heart open. Bye-bye.